Hi, Roy.
Hi, MB.
Great to be with you.
It's always great to be with you too. I think today is going to be a lot of fun. This guest is going to bring a lot of energy and something new for the table, and he's going to be talking about sharpening our minds as we age.
That's right, and it's really about intention and curiosity and willingness to learn, I think.
Willingness to learn is huge because we think as we get older that we kind of just need to ease off and not learn as much anymore. And I think this is going to be very educational today for people to kind of turn over a new leaf.
There you go. Welcome to The Great Take. So today we're joined by David McNally. David, thank you for being here and joining us.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation. It's wonderful.
We're so glad to have you, and we're just hoping you'll tell us a little bit about your background and the work you do with personal growth and learning. I know there's a lot, but can you tell us just a bit about the work that you do?
I became very, very enthralled when I was in my 20s and working with companies when they would put me through leadership programs, management programs, motivational programs. I became enthralled by them, and they had a very profound effect on me personally because it took me into the world of possibilities. What that led to was a career decision of just saying, I want to do this full time. This is what I want my life to be about. I want to be in the field of personal growth and transformation. I've been introduced to some wonderful speakers. I said, I would love to do that. I'd like to be a speaker. And that began that whole journey for me, primarily in the United States, to develop my own business, develop my own career. I wrote my first book in 1991, which was called Even Eagles Need a Push. Learning to soar in a changing world. And had the very good fortune to have that book be quite an enormous seller. It has sold over 500,000 copies as of this date, so it's a big, big success story.
Half a
Half a
million.
million. Wow.
Yes, so
Wow.
Not too shabby.
and
Yeah.
it continues to sell in little bits and pieces, right? But it's been and that book really established my credibility and my name and my brand. And since then, I've written four other books. My new book, it's called If You're Alive, Your Mission on Earth Isn't Finished, which is aimed at the 60 plus crowd, those who are looking at what their next chapter might be. And so I've written it for them, and that's been quite successful as well.
I
So that's
love that.
kind of what, and I've spoken all over the world, and yeah, so that's my
Well,
life at this stage.
my goodness. Well, that is so much, but I love that you just said the 60 and up crowd because what
Well,
we're talking about today is we want to know if people assume that learning slows down
right.
as you age. Why is that?
Well, it slows down if you choose it to slow down. And I think what's very important is that we have been uh, uh, sidelined by this whole notion of retirement.
Mm,
Not that retirement and moving on from a career and deserving to have an easier life if you want isn't a good thing.
sure.
But what we find is that retirement doesn't mean that you're retiring from life. You're retiring from the career that you've just had. So what we need to understand is that while you're alive, what stimulates the good feelings and the energy for getting up in the morning is to continue to live your life in a full way, to
Mm-hmm.
continue to
Mm.
grow, to continue to develop, and to understand that leads you to discovering possibilities and talents and gifts that you never thought that you had or have been latent, and you can uncover them now and start to use them in a different way.
Man.
Yeah, I have to say, it seems that the kind of the role play when it comes to retiring and getting to that point, everybody just to a degree just wants to stop. They're like, okay, I'm done with work. I don't need to do anymore. And I believe that's a huge misconception about it all.
I think you hit on a couple of the
Yeah.
points, David. Like, okay, so if I'm retiring from my job, maybe the grind,
Yeah.
then now I have an opportunity to explore things that I was interested in and maybe didn't have as much time or just haven't done yet.
Right.
Is that right?
And people are really good with routine and structure. And so they need that again, especially if you've been doing the 9 to 5 for so long, you have the grind going. So, it's just kind of, we have to continue to learn. It's very, very important to continue to learn.
Yeah. David, how important is mindset then? It's like if you're a retiree and, it's time to retire, and how important is it to, embrace this, have a mindset of learning and growing?
Well, mindset is everything, no matter how old you are in life, right? Because mindset is really about how are you thinking? What is your perspective? How are you approaching the future? Mindset is, I like to say, are you living in a world of ain't it awful, or are you living in a world of isn't that amazing?
Mm,
I
And
like that.
it's very, very dangerous to get into the world of ain't it awful? And there's a lot of awful things going on in the world, and
true.
we're confronted by that every day. But what's important to understand is that there's a lot out there that's just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It truly is amazing. There are new discoveries going on. There are people doing phenomenal things to combat the ain't it awful. So mindset is attitude, again, perspective, and that is what allows you to look at the rest of your life in a very different way. Now, be accepting of what does happen. And what does happen is that, if you retire and if you've worked very, very hard, great. You deserve to take a break,
Sure.
right? And often then that's when people start to do the cruises and they start to play a lot of golf if that's their passion,
And I
right?
understand that might be a passion of yours. Is that right? Are you speaking
Yes,
from experience?
I am. I am. They
Nothing
may
wrong with that.
enjoy a martini at
Hmm.
the end of the day
My mama
and
did.
feel free
My
and
mom
feel
and
free
pop
to do
wanted their
that.
martinis. Absolutely.
Yeah, of course. I mean, absolutely. I love a martini, but I
Mm,
find two martinis is too much for me,
there you go.
right? And so what happens is after a period of time into retirement, a lot of people feel a dissonance inside. Oh my gosh, this is not what I thought it might look like.
Mm,
I just feel that I'm not relevant anymore. I'm
that's
not being
big.
useful. Yeah, it's a very and in fact, in my book, in the very first paragraph of the first chapter, I talk about having lunch with a friend of mine who had retired. Honestly, this guy was so successful, a squillionaire, was so wealthy. And I said to him, how's retirement going? And he said, it's hard.
Hmm.
And I said to him, what's hard? This guy could do anything he wanted. And he said, relevance. He said, only a year ago, I couldn't respond to all my emails or
Yes.
texts. I was in demand at
Yeah.
social
Yeah,
occasions,
yeah.
meetings. He said, now I'm calling people for lunch. He said, so how, David, do I find my relevance? And I think what the challenge is for so many people is that they won't find their relevance, which they found in their career. That identity that they had made them relevant. Now we have to find our own relevance. We're in a new journey. And what that means is then where can I contribute? What can I create in my life? So it's a very different journey, and it's a lot of it is to do with the introspection, to look inside of ourselves and be willing to reflect on what fulfills me, what inspires me, who inspires me. And we look into those questions because people say that the answers to your life are inside of you, and they are, but we always don't have the right questions. So we have to
Mm.
be willing to spend time reflecting and answering these questions, which will then guide us to what we can establish for our lives.
Oh my gosh, I really love that, and I'm kind of sad to remember, like just talking about the relevance. When my pop retired, at first there was about not even a year, but this great honeymoon period where he was, they'd moved to a new place and he's meeting neighbors and hanging with grandchildren and doing all this stuff. And then it really, there was a definite period of depression where he was not feeling relevant. He had a really important job, and his colleagues were his friends. They weren't in touch anymore. I was worried about him not having friends or a purpose. He's a really smart man, and I was encouraging him maybe to tutor or to even take classes or things. He really did not embrace it. I wish I could jump back in time and kind of say, what do you care about? What is your opportunity here? I like the questions. Can you say a little bit more about what questions you might ask someone?
Yes, I think what you have to get into is the questions of what I just said. Is, okay, I'm looking at my life now.
Mm-hmm.
What do I find fulfilling? But first of all, talking about your father, I think what happens is that people don't accept this new reality. They fight it, they resist it, they
Mm.
get angry about it. And if we don't accept the new reality, it's very hard then to visualize what is possible. So, acceptance, when we face any form of change in our life, acceptance is where we need to get to not deny the reality. So, if we're always looking and saying, best years of my life are over,
Mm-hmm.
then that is going to cause us to get into what you suggested, which is called situational depression,
Mm-hmm.
a depression that's caused by a situation. So we have to have the courage to stand back and take a look and say to myself, okay, all right, now I'm in a new chapter. My life isn't over because I'm alive. And how do I make this last chapter or chapters of my life compelling? Are the authors of our lives. We look at where we are today, and we have created where we are today in
Mm-hmm.
so many different ways. We are created. Now, what are you going to create in the future? What do you want the rest of your life to be like? Well, to be able to do that, we need to be able to say, okay, what could I do that I think I would find fulfilling?
Mm-hmm.
What, for example, is an organization whose cause I feel passionate about,
That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
I like to
right?
hear that. You have time to do it.
And have the time to do it, and they need you.
Mm-hmm.
That's the beauty of it. They really need you. And when you get involved in an organization such as that, and you start to participate, you then you realize, oh my gosh, there's still purpose in my life because there's still a contribution that I can make. And the other benefit of something like that is that you start to meet people again. You've got new people, new colleagues, new friends. And the Mayo Clinic up here in Minnesota, who does a lot of research on aging, says that the number one factor in longevity is strong social connections.
Well, our podcast is a lot of listeners of aging,
Mm-hmm.
people that are aging and also caregivers. And we were caregivers, and our co-host Susie.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm really interested in your book, The Power of Purpose, and being relevant again really struck with me when you talked about that, because coming out of caregiving years, you feel completely irrelevant. Like you don't know what to do with yourself. I didn't know what to do with myself anymore.
When it was
When it
over,
was
David,
over, yeah. When my mom passed away, and the world passed me by, I was like, well, how do I get back into it? How do I find purpose again? How do I line back up with the world that's running when I've been staying in one spot and it's revolved around me? So,
That's such a good
and then
question.
there's trauma on top of that, where you experience all this trauma, and it's like, so I was talking about that earlier. I think I've had this conversation with Susie too. I'm sure I have with you too, MB, that my brain kind of went into like sleep mode. Like after all that was over with and the trauma, and I was really, really sick and all of that, like my brain didn't want to learn. It didn't want to do anything. It just wanted to, what's the simplest thing that I can do? Like, and it was just to do nothing. And it's taken years for it to want to rebuild and be like, okay, I want to start learning again. I want to start doing things again.
Yeah, I've been a caregiver twice.
Okay.
My first wife passed away when she was 57
Oh,
Okay.
from
wow.
ovarian cancer.
Oh my.
So
And
sorry.
I was a caregiver to her for 3 years before she passed away.
Hmm.
So that was my first experience of caregiving. I had the great good fortune in my 60s, a wonderful woman who we were together for several years before we married at the age of 70, which was beautiful.
Nice.
And
Cheers.
Yeah.
then 3 years after that, she got Alzheimer's.
Oh.
And so I was a caregiver to her for 4 years,
Wow.
Mm.
and she passed away a little less than 3 years ago. So I
Oh.
understand the journey of caregiving very much, and
Hmm.
what happens after you caregive, and because of what you said, your brain freezes.
Yeah.
Because the intensity, as
Hmm.
you said, of what you've been involved with is all consuming, and there's nothing more important that you've been doing than looking after that person or those
Mm-hmm.
people. It's just very powerful work that you're involved with. So that intensity, once it's over, leaves the vacuum. Right? So the best thing that I can answer that way is that I had a friend of mine who's actually a minister in a church, retired now, who lost her husband suddenly by just a heart attack, totally unexpected.
Oh my.
And we got together and a few months after, and I said to her, I said, oh, she said to me, how do I find purpose,
Mm-hmm.
David?
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
just, how do I find purpose? And quite frankly, my advice to her was don't even think about it. Don't even think about it.
Yeah.
Don't even try. There is so much grief. There is so much pain that is involved. Don't try.
Mm.
Survive. And it's challenging, but that's what your job is at this moment until later on it starts to ease up a little bit for you. But if you're involved in saying, I need purpose, no, you don't need purpose, you need distraction. You need
And you need to
distraction
That's
heal.
great
You
advice.
need
You just
from
need to
time.
heal.
pain.
You need time, and time heals everything. And so, instead of trying to figure it all out all at once to find purpose, it's kind of like when you're trying to find someone that you want to be with, and you're looking and looking and looking and looking, and then you can't find anyone, and then when you stop looking, they show up. So it's similar to that degree.
Yep.
You know, you just need time. And I've taken a lot of time. I've taken a lot of time,
But I
but
think
I
that's
needed
a
it. It was 11
magnificent
years, you know?
point because that's anyone who's been a caregiver to any degree,
Hmm.
especially you, Roy, with that long period of time, and it slams to a halt, then you're
Yeah.
kind of I had a much shorter period than you, but all of a sudden I felt like I'd wake up in the morning and say, I forgot something.
Yeah.
Oh, like I left something on top of the car, like before and it's like, oh, okay, I don't have to go down there today
Hmm.
and I can, yes, on Saturdays I can see a friend or, work on a side project or
Or you don't feel
whatever.
like you have to get back home. Mine was
Right.
always
I'll
like,
get
I'm
back
going to
home.
go
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
somewhere, and then I'm like, oh, I got to get back.
Hurry,
And it's
hurry.
like,
Yeah, I'm in a
there's
hurry.
nothing to get back to,
I love
So,
that you have that
yeah.
period of healing. Like we're making a kind of a bridge between, because we started out just talking about like when people have a hard end date to their
Hmm.
job,
Yeah.
but like when something else
Right.
really important and crucial ends. Well, how important is, we were just talking about this. If you do have a 9 to 5 job or whatever kind of a job, you have a structure. You
Right.
you get up at a certain time every day. How important is routine when you are finding yourself in a new phase of life? How important is routine and structure, do you think?
I believe that what we have to understand is that it's different for everybody,
Okay.
and each individual needs to find their own way of operating. Right? I have a routine, I have a ritual
Mm-hmm.
that I've had for over 40 years. My routine is that every morning I get up fairly early,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a journal. Many people journal today. I have a journal that I've been writing in, but the purpose of that is that as we get older, we don't. everything doesn't fall into place. Even if you're financially in a good place, there's no place in life called made it.
Yeah.
The world will always throw up challenges. The world will always throw up problems, whether that's with children or grandchildren or relationships or whatever. That will always be a part of life, and we need to understand that. So, for each individual, how they manage that, how they handle that, it's very important for them to allow themselves to do that. Now, the reason that I do my routine is simply because I'm a human being, and at night, what happens, as often happens to many people, is that we get these negative thoughts. Nighttime is the time when I call the bully thoughts. We have
Ooh.
these thoughts that want to bully you. And make you worry and get you anxious about the future, whether it
Yeah.
be your own future or someone
Yeah, I
else's
know those.
future, right? So it's my time to write in my journal, understand that those thoughts are erroneous. They're just thoughts that came up in the night, because if I ground myself in the present moment, all is well, everything, all is well. And then what I can do then is then start my reading, which is a part of my ritual, of something that is very positive, somewhat inspirational, if you like, but starts to channel my thoughts towards that which I want to experience that day. People talk about a bucket list. Uh,
Sure.
I I'm not big on bucket lists because they're too final for me. It means, bucket list is I've got to do this before I die. Well, I don't go there. What I have is what I call a one day I'm gonna list. We all have one of them. Okay, one day I'm going to go to Australia.
Okay.
One day I'm going to do this, right? One day I'm going to do that. And the challenge is, well, when are we going to do it? How long will it stay on our list? And we don't take any action towards its fulfillment and accomplishment. So I encourage everybody to take time out again, time for reflection, and say, okay, write down my one day I'm going to list, all the things that I said I wanted to do, and then I'm going to prioritize them. And what's at the top of my list? Well, I did this. So this year I turned 80, right? In August,
All
I'll be
right.
80.
Looking great.
Okay.
Yeah. Wow.
Thank you, thank you,
Fantastic.
and I feel good. I feel good. But when before my 72nd birthday, I was sitting down and I thought, okay, David, time for you to look at your one day I'm gonna list. And what right at the top was, I want to go to college. I'd never been to college in my life.
Oh
I have five
my
Okay.
children.
goodness.
I'd
Wow.
I'd helped them go to college, but I personally had never stepped a college classroom as a student in my life. So I thought, okay, what are you going to do about it? So I went right here to the University of Minnesota, saw a counselor, and the counselor said, we have a fabulous program for senior citizens where you can audit a class for nothing, any
Oh,
class.
wow.
And the University of Minnesota is a huge university. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a smorgasbord of opportunity, but you can also do it for credit.
Right.
And the tuition was so minimal that it was within anybody's budget, right? So I enrolled, and that September I became a freshman at the University of
That's
Minnesota.
fantastic.
And I took a class, and I projected when I graduate, which was 96. Well, I'd be 96 when I graduate, but
There you
that's
go.
okay.
Okay.
At
Little
this
slow
rate,
And
roll there. A little
that's it.
slow roll.
Some
Yeah.
some people
Yeah.
stay in college longer. I mean, I
Yeah.
had a brother who did 5 years. Like
Yeah.
David wanted to
oh
do
yeah, no,
15.
it's been a incredible, absolutely incredible experience. And what I want to say to anybody who loves what I've just said,
Mm,
I want to tell you, you will have experiences with those young people. I don't go online. I want to be in person. I want to
well
be
done.
in the classroom. And I'm in there with the 18 to 24-year-olds, and I find it so stimulating
That is great.
and it gives you the faith in young people. They're brilliant, they're smart. My goodness, the conversations we have blows me away.
I
Yeah.
love that. I
Well,
love that.
yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. And you're not. you're a huge inspiration to all those kids in that college, seeing you there. Like if I was in college and I saw that, I'd be like, that's awesome. I want to be like that when I get older, because it just shows like you never stop learning. We're here to learn. This is what we're supposed to do. School, like Earth is school. We're here to learn. And sometimes we can stray from it and all that stuff, but you're not supposed to stop learning from everything. So that's all. I don't know what to say. Like
I
I'm
love
like
it.
I'm so proud of you. Like that's
it.
so awesome. I love it.
And I love that it works both ways. Is
Yeah.
that you know there's so much talk of, oh, the young of today, they're terrible. They
Yeah.
never get off their phones.
Yeah.
They're you know, they don't want to work. But you're engaging and finding that you have hope in this generation, which I kind of love. Are you
Oh,
finding them so smart, and
it's
that you're
absolutely
learning from
brilliant.
them? Yeah.
Yeah, I would think
Oh,
so.
absolutely. And the most wonderful things happen. And my a beautiful story of my first semester was arriving in class the first morning. And of course, I've never been to college, so I don't know what you're supposed to do, right? So I'm there half an hour early. Well, that's the first lesson. College students don't get to class a half an hour early. They're running in the
I
door
don't,
at the
unless
last
I make
minute.
a
No,
mistake
not
and
at
they
all.
have the time wrong or
Yeah.
something. That's very unusual.
So I'm standing there wondering if I'm in the right classroom, and then a petite young woman walks in and just stands a few seats away from me, and I don't know what to say or what to do, but I thought, well, there's two of us here. I don't want to just immerse myself into silence. So I went up and I said to her, I said, "Hi, I'm David." And she said, "Oh, I'm Lauren." I said, "Are you a freshman?" And she said, "Yes." She said, "It's my first day of college." And I said, "Mine too."
Oh wow, that's so cool.
That's the
And
coolest
and
thing.
she looked at me and I said, "Yeah." I told her my story. Well, for that semester, Lauren and I sat next to it, not next to each other, a few seats up, saw each other in class. "Hi, Lauren. How was
Yeah.
your week? How was things?" Whatever it might be. Well, it was the day of finals. And I'm doing my first finals I'd done, think about this, in 60 years.
Oh Lord.
So and I am really
Wow.
prepared for it.
Mm.
But I'm sweating it. I want to do well.
Sure.
I've finished all the questions, take it up to my professor. I walk back wanting to just wish Lauren the very best for her future, and she's gone. She's not there. I am so disappointed. But I don't know, I can't do anything about it. So I go back to my seat, and on my seat is a post-it note, and it says, "Dear David, it has been so much fun being in class with you this semester. Thank you for being my first college friend, Lauren."
Oh, that hits the
That's the
heart. That
sweetest
is
thing I've ever
awesome.
heard.
Who would expect that? And so we have stayed in touch. And
Oh, that's
Lauren, now
great.
this many years later, is married and in a career. And I've had so many beautiful experiences.
That's great.
I think that's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
And I wish I'd had you in my class, and I might have been one of those students who was a little running tardy, like all a mess coming in, barreling in the door a few minutes late.
Running
But
across campus.
you're
Yeah.
kind of answering the question, like so. I mean, it's so inspiring. But for somebody who's stuck, somebody who's listening right now and says, "I've been meaning to check out a class," how do you make yourself do it?
Well, that's me right now. So,
Okay.
yeah,
How do you
please.
make Roy
Yes, let's do me for sure.
go and like he's like, I know I gotta take this step. How do I do it?
Yeah, coach me up.
Go, coach.
Come on, Coach David.
Well, first of all, I can't make Roy do anything.
That's
Right? I can't
I have
make
to
that's
do
the
it.
truth.
I
Okay.
have
Yeah.
to do it. Yeah.
I have, but what I say to you, as I would say to anyone listening, remember that we live life on a feeling level. That no matter how old we are, we want to feel good about life. And we want to feel good about our own lives. But the emotional and what I like to say spiritual feelings, meaning the human spirit, well, those feelings come from being engaged and, as you mentioned earlier, continuing to learn.
Hmm.
So, what I would
That's
say
key.
to you,
Hmm.
Roy, is okay, how do you want to feel? And what might it be like if you were in a class fully engaged and with a lot of young people, or maybe a mixture of peers, how would you feel then? And if you want to have those feelings, well, get off your butt and do something about
There
it.
you go. There
I
you
like
go.
it. I will take that. I will take
I
that.
like that you emphasize feelings, because we're talking about how do you learn and how do you grow and
Yeah.
how do you
Yeah.
remain healthy and as you age. But I mean, if you emphasize the feeling part, the joy and the contentment, or it's not always going to be happy, 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 but just engaged and feeling more alive. Really, does that help, Roy?
Oh, it totally helps because I was just sitting there thinking about it. Like it's a feeling. I think a lot of it is because before there was so much fear going into everything because like bad things just kept happening over and over and over again, being a caregiver and all that stuff. So you kind of create habits. If I do something now, something bad is gonna happen, but you have to push through that.
Do you think there's a perception that older folks learn more slowly?
Well, there could be that perception. It's not reality. They
Mm.
don't necessarily learn more slowly. Now, I would suggest that what you just said was more of an application of not necessarily one of your gifts or talents to be able to handle technology, because it certainly
Nicely
isn't
said.
mine,
Yes.
Very
right?
kind.
So I think we need to accept, okay, here's what I'm good at and here's what I'm not good at, and validate the good and accept what I'm not so good at. That's so very important. So many things that we do. I haven't found anything except curiosity. They look at you and they're curious. And when you, as often you get into a small group dynamic that
Mm.
the professor has put you into,
Hmm.
and then you start to have the conversation, things that are very important when you're older and with younger people is that you don't come across as knowing it all. So I hold back very much and do, much more listening than I do because I want to find out what they think, what they feel. And they are very anxious to be able to express themselves in that
Yes.
way. But not once have I felt judged or that they weren't interested. In fact, the opposite is true. I found them to be very curious about why I'm in class. And then, of
Hmm.
course, when they realize that I'm in class actually to get a degree of some kind, then they're fascinated. If I'm still alive, you can be at my graduation.
We want to come.
Yeah, yeah,
Roy
yeah,
and I want
yeah.
to.
I'll
Well,
finally go to Minnesota.
what does healthy aging look like then, David? Like if you're learning and you're growing, what can it look like when you're in your 70s or 80s or 90s?
Well, there's a wonderful choreographer, Emmy Award-winning choreographer, Tony Award-winning choreographer, Twyla Tharp,
I've heard of her.
right? Twyla Tharp, and in her book that she wrote, she said, "Age is not the enemy; stagnation is the enemy." So I think if people understand that it's not possible to stand still, you're either going to grow or you're going to decline. You're either going to progress or you're going to regress. You're either going to expand or you're going to contract. That's what happens every day of your life. So, vital aging is about when you wake up in the morning, is to be able to say or declare, today my life is about growing. I'm not going to decline. I accept my physical limitations,
Because
but what
there's
I
that.
know
Yeah,
is
Hmm.
absolutely.
I accept my physical limitations. I gave a speech last week where a woman in the audience suggested, she said, I realized that I had been holding myself back because of my physical limitations. She said, but
I
I
understand
can
that.
see
she said,
that.
I've just
Absolutely.
realized from what you've said that my imagination is as big as it's ever been. My imagination is very expansive, and every bit of research on brains suggests that as we get older, our brains don't decline; they can expand. But they have to be nurtured and they have to be nourished. So
Hmm.
vital aging is what I like to say is that emotional and spiritual journey that we take on in our latter stages of our lives. It's about a self discovery, discovering the potential that we still have, and that comes from again. What have I said? I always wanted to do. So if I like to say, if you're 75 or you're 60, whatever it is, and you just project 10 years and just say that you're going to live another 10 years, what could you accomplish in that 10 years? It would be amazing what you could accomplish. And you said you've always wanted to write a book. Well, you could write a book in 10 years. You really could,
Yeah.
You could quite easily write a book in 10 years. So start, put the words on paper. You're a journalist, put it down. I have a formula for writing books. I share it with people, and then they say, oh, I never thought of doing it that way. So but you can do these things. I have a friend who is just turned 80. He's been learning for the last 5 years to play the piano.
Mm,
It's not a big deal to most people, but it's a big deal to him.
mm.
Yeah.
I mean, he
Yeah.
he called me. He was so excited he could play Hey Jude.
Ah,
Right
nice.
on.
I
Nice.
had to tell him, hey, wait a while before you audition for
Right.
Paul McCartney,
Right.
right?
We'll wait till Sir Paul comes
Yeah.
in, maybe a little bit, but that's fantastic. So if you
Yeah.
maybe like someone here quit her piano lessons when she was in second grade,
I quit mine too.
there's still
Yeah.
time.
There's still time. I really like the fact that you said, basically in a matter of words, you're saying just go do it. I think about my dad who always wanted to go to Monument Valley, and he never went. And I was like, Dad, why don't you go? Just go, like you and Mom, make a plan and go see it. And it was always like this excuse, that
Yeah,
excuse,
yeah.
that excuse.
People
They were
do
both
that.
retired and everything, and I was like, you have the time. I was like, just go do it. But it just kind of shot it down every single time, and I was just like, oh man. And then he passed away, and he never went. So it kind of makes me think, when's a good age? Like when's a good time that you would recommend for people if they're kind of stuck or whatever, when they should seek out coaching or a mentorship, to kind of to push them, to get that little push that they need to have right now.
Anytime they're stuck, anytime you're stuck, reach out. There are so many groups that I'm meeting these days, men's
Mm-hmm.
groups, women's groups. Women have always been much better at that. But men are becoming open to it, very much so. I meet with a bunch of guys every couple of weeks. These are men who, they were scientists, doctors, lawyers. They are wonderful, but they've put that behind them now. We don't talk about what we did or they did or accomplished. We just talk about life and
That's
and
great.
and and the world and what's going on and what's bothering us, or we talk about grandchildren, or any of those things that are relevant. So you need to reach out, because there's plenty of great coaching out there, but with your peers, peer coaching, call it
Start
peer
there.
coaching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they will share with you ideas. The other thing that I do want to be very careful of is to share with people, um, don't be controlled by what you should do
Oh, the
or
shoulds.
what
That's
The
good.
you
shoulds.
ought to do,
Yeah, that's
right?
good.
Don't be controlled by that. Don't be controlled by the feelings of guilt that, oh, I should be doing this or I ought to be doing that. Be motivated and inspired by what you want to do. What would be, as we talked about earlier, fulfilling to you. I just listened to a podcast by a man of my age, and I was delighted by listening to him, because his podcast was, hey, I love being alone at home. He said, I'm an engineer. I've worked very hard. I'm financially okay. I love being alone at home, right? And he said, I want to share with those of you who love that as well. Don't make that wrong. don't listen to people saying you should be out, you should be doing this. And
Yes.
he said,
Yeah.
another episode was, don't get a girlfriend. he, he,
What?
he,
What?
he had lost his wife a few years before, and he said, I got pushed by my daughter and everyone else about I should have a companion,
Yes.
and
Okay.
There's the
Dad,
should
don't
again.
be
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
home by yourself, right? And he said, so I got myself a girlfriend. And after 8 months, she was trying to control my life so much. I said, nah, not for me.
What an
So he
excellent
split up.
example.
He split up. And I adored it because I'm a widower now again for the second time. And then even though I'm 80, people ask me, do you think we'll want another companion? And while I'm not close to it, he frightened me. He frightened me. I thought, oh my
Yeah,
gosh,
David had a
okay.
date and he just canceled it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Oh my.
Canceling
so
his Hinge account.
that's what I want to say to people. I mean, this is not about you should do this or ought to do this. It's what's going to create the good feelings
There you
Yeah.
go.
that you want to have.
There you go. Let's not
I
put
like
some
that.
shame or some FOMO into, oh my,
Exactly.
like,
No.
like my
Yeah.
my runway is short. I have to write 5 books and
Yeah.
go to the top of
Yes.
Everest and, all of these things. Well,
Yes.
oh my gosh, what a delightful conversation. I want to say thank you so much, David, for sharing your expertise
It's been
and
great. It's been wonderful.
for being with us today.
That has been great. And I really I appreciate all that you said, the motivation, the inspiration that you've been helping so many people for so long. And I really like that you've taken your foot from Minnesota and kicked me right in the butt.
Yeah,
So
right?
thank you very much.
It came on down. It
Came on down, and I felt it.
That's right.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
And,
Thank you.
And David doesn't even ice fish. That's what
No.
I understand. But can you share again, David, where people can find some of your your material or your talks or just share where people can find your books and things that you
Well, thank you.
create.
Thank you. For those who, again, are 60 plus, I really recommend my new book, If You're Alive, Your Mission on Earth Isn't Finished.
There you go.
Very much available on Amazon.
Okay, on
And
Amazon. Yep.
it's on softcover. We release the audio version in a couple of months. My website is very comprehensive, davidmcnally.com. All right, davidmcnally.com. It'll tell you about my speaking, because I'm speaking to a lot of groups still at this time in my life. So that's where I would find we're launching a new online learning program. So we're very, very active, but that's where you'll find me. And if you want to write to me, of course, which I'd love, info@davidmcnally.com. Info@davidmcnally.com.
Got it.
Okay.
Sounds great.
Roy's going to keep in touch. And,
I am.
No, really, it was so good to meet you, and thanks
Pleasure to
for
meet you.
Thank you.
all the
Thank you,
wisdom
thank you.
and helping our listeners today.
You were fantastic.
Yeah,
Thank
no,
you.
I loved it. Appreciate being with you.
Thank
Yeah,
you very
have
much.
a great week.
It was an
now.
honor.
Thanks.
Thanks,
All right.
David.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
The best part about a conversation like this is that it applies at any age.
Oh my gosh. It totally does. And I loved David's perspective on really just the emotional piece, and not to shame yourself that you should be doing something. What's going to make me feel good when I finish anything, when I finish my time as a caregiver or work, or I'm getting older? What's gonna bring me joy? Really, I think he was talking about.
I agree. And there's one thing I wanted to point out too, was the fact that, people have been like, have you ever thought about going back to school? And I'm like, school? Why would I go back to school?
Exactly.
Like, I don't want to do that. I'm too old for that now. And there he is at 80, hanging out with a bunch of 20-year-olds.
So great.
And loving it, and they're loving him. And it was like, oh, maybe I should go back to school.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really eye-opening for me. I
Lovely.
really enjoyed that part.
Yep, very, very, very inspirational for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
So, God, we'd love to hear your story. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And if anything that you want to share, anything you're thinking about wanting to share with us, please email us, write to us, call us, anything. I would love to hear. I specifically would love to hear. I've been wanting to say this for a while. I specifically would love to hear from caregivers that are out there that have just been really wanting to reach out. I mean, please just reach out to us,
Right.
because we know what it's like to be alone. We know what it's like to be isolated. Please reach out to us, and I would personally love to talk to you on any
Yeah, that
any
would be
level. Yeah.
fantastic to hear from you. So call or text us at 833-473-9898.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for being with us on The Great Take.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Roy.
Thanks, MB.
The views and opinions shared in this episode are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of Brookdale Senior Living. This content is for informational purposes only and isn't intended as financial or medical advice or an endorsement of any position or product discussed. Always talk to a qualified professional before making decisions about your health, finances, or the care or finances of a loved one based on something you've heard in this program. Brookdale is not responsible for the accuracy or completeness of the information shared.